Alrighty. A lot of folks have been talking about this, and I kind of talked, and I didn't really go into much detail, but now I'm going to go into a slight bit more detail. So there is a move I think that people like Vosh have talked about. I know I gave him way too much credit, and other folks who want to make the Republicans irrelevant. Okay. So you make the Republican Party irrelevant. What happens next? Well, then you have folks that just go, I guess their thinking is this. Here's my assumption of what they think and why I think that could be wrong. What they want to do is to make the Republican Party irrelevant. And through that, once new parties come up that are more, mask off about their beliefs, that it will be easy to take those smaller groups down. And I think to a point that's nonsense. The reason I say that is because you have to have a population, wherever that may be, a specific state or county or whatever, that actually believes that the Democrats are going to do much better. The thing is that it's oversimplified where it's just like, oh, well, numerous things could happen when Republicans become irrelevant. Moderate Republicans will simply do a reverse of what they did, right? They will simply go to being Democrats, right? And so they're going to go in and be able to promote their same ideas, right? So you have that. You have, a dissolution of folk. A lot of folks who are already disgruntled with the Republican Party as it is, or just going to go straight up and just be like, yeah, we're National Socialists now, or we're we're Now's Bowl now, or whatever, right? Even though I'll call myself that label sometimes, but I know it's a LARPy phrase, but it's the internet, right? But anywho, that's what's going to occur, is that once you make the Republican Party irrelevant, not that I don't think that's going to take a hell of a long time, in my opinion, because yeah, you can put as many, Uncle Toms or whatever you want in there, different Uncle Toms than me. Wink, wink. I'm getting real saucy on this, but anywho, I think that in general, the Republican Party will become the party of the POC. It will become the party of the Hispanic who wants to, of the Hispanic conservative, or the, the Latino conservative, whichever word you want to say. This is that's the future of the Republican Party. I think that once the honkies leave and they create their own little minor parties that may not go anywhere, I don't think the Republican Party is going to become irrelevant. I think that it will simply become a place where, now that some, black conservatives or whatever come into it, yeah, you're going to have some Uncle Toms and whatnot, but you're also going to get some brothers who are going to start promoting like black separatism, this and that, to a point. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I always try to say those things, Maybe that's my CYA card, but I think that's what's going to occur. You're going to get, Latinos, Hispanos, Chicanos, who are going to start coming into the Republican Party. And will still use that whole thing, but now they have these strategies. They'll keep some white lackeys on. They'll keep some of the older white folks on. And they'll say, hey, you want to keep a job? Most of them will probably say, yeah, I want to keep my job. I'm willing to play your game. Why not? Some will fight, but, the thing is that I think that's what it will become. The thing is that it's a hard strategy of what's going on, because there are people that will, they'll continue to use the terms like, black white supremacist, or, they can't, because they don't want to use, and they'll say that they're sellouts, this and that. They just don't want to use the words like coon or Uncle Tom. They don't like using terms like that because they're afraid to, because they know that they would look horrible when they do that. But that's really what they, it's what they are, or they'll say maybe like an Uncle Chan, as in the Chinese phrase, so that's at least in my opinion, that's what's going to occur. I don't think the Republicans are going to be made. Maybe white Republicans will be. I'll put it that way. Let's put it down to race. Why not? People can say race is bullshit. Yeah, that's fine, but race is a real thing. Let's be honest with you. Let's be honest with people. But the thing is that once this occurs, there's just going to be a shift. And, there's just going to be a lot of smaller parties. All right. I'll try to remember to edit this one down, hopefully. Where the hell was I? I think basically what I was saying is that the honkies will create their own little parties here and there that will gain regional power, whereas the National Republican Party will, cater more to, maybe, conservative, quote unquote, or socially conservative black folks, this and that. And I think that's what's going to occur. And I think that will naturally go towards more of a, a black separatist mindset, or maybe a Chicano sort of La Raza mindset, Maybe that's a simplified, American sort of stance. I'm very ignorant on a lot of things, but I do feel that that's what's going to occur. So you can go ahead and make the, Republican Party irrelevant, or say that, oh, we're going to make them irrelevant without having to change the Democratic Party. Let's finish up with this. It's like you want to make the Republicans irrelevant, but keep the Democrats on. That's like cutting off one leg, in my opinion. It's like, oh, okay. This leg is all infected. I'll put it this way. That's a bad analogy. I was going to put it this way. Like it's, you have a building that is, is infested with rats. We'll put it that way. The building's infested with rats. And I was kind of talking about this a little bit before with, Republicans becoming Democrats. But you have, let's say you cleared up part of a building of rats, or let's say that there's less rats in there on this one side of the building than the other side. You blow up the side with more of the rats, and the rats are going to go to that other building. So it doesn't make any sense to blow it up and destroy the Republican Party and then leave the other building intact that's still kind of rotten and it's still being, infested with rats, It doesn't make any sense, does it? You got to get rid of the whole thing. But a lot of folks are going to say, no, we can't do that. Some Democrats can be saved. AOC, Ilhan Omar, they're going to save the party. They're going to... No, they are not. They can talk a big game, but ultimately they know who their bosses are. They know how to take orders. And they know when to, give a little, give their fake little jabs, pretending like they're going to do something, when in actuality, they aren't. That's the fact of the matter. They're not. So, I think that's where things stand. I also saw, what's his name? James Yates Sexton. I saw him. I just happened to see him. I happened to look through Twitter. I was like, oh boy. And James Yates Sexton, of course, is now trying to become somewhat anti-capitalist and say, well, look what these corporations have done. And of course, he'll talk about white supremacy, this and that. Of course, the thing is that he'll still say, he's still on Substack, because everybody's on, there's a lot of folks on Substack who write their bullshit and all that because, but I'm not a writer. I'd rather just rant and rave into a microphone. It's much easier. And yeah, I could go on like Libsyn or something and put these up, but it's like, it's just easier to do it this way. YouTube is still a place where a lot of folks go, as crap as it is, but anywho, I think, of course, James Yates Sexton, he's like, well, look at what the Republicans and the right wing will hold up these corporations and whatnot. But then, of course, he'll say, oh, well, Joe Manchin, just because they have a D in front of their name doesn't mean that they're your friend. It's like, okay, does that mean you're going to reform, that the Democrats are part of this whole mess too? He doesn't say that. He's been on MSNBC. So he knows the game. He knows the game, I think, in general, where it's like, it's easier, he's just part of the larger issue of, white supremacy's bad, this and that, and everything. But ultimately, they aren't going to change much. They're just promoting the larger opinion that, oh, well, white supremacy is bad. And of course, then it comes down to whiteness and everything else. But I imagine that it's whatever. But they're just part of the larger problem. They are just minor players, and that ultimately they'll get swallowed up too. Anywho, I think that's all I have to say about that issue. Yeah, I think that's it. Now it's getting kind of awkward, but yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Hopefully y'all enjoy that. See you later, and goodbye.